bit, and I always say, okay, and what are you doing to prepare for the radiation? Because there's going to be a lot of it if something's not done about these. And I've had some tell me they're going to shut them down before it reaches that point. But at that point, that would be my red flag. I'd say, okay, they're shutting those suckers down. There's a reason for that.
Oh, absolutely. You've heard of, I'm sure, Major Ed Dames. I'll brief your readers or listeners very briefly on that.
Okay.
He was part of a CIA and Pentagon jointly sponsored project involving remote viewing. He stated this project saw the end of days as being tied to a series of major solar flares over a one-year period. Earth was totally unprepared. In the most recent interview I saw with him, he was asked whether Planet X or Nibiru may have been the cause of the solar activity and flares that devastate the Earth. It was right after a 7-minute point. He said is possible, if not probable. One of his callers on the program raised a very interesting observation. The viewer, during the, I think it was 11-minute, 50-second segment, raised a fascinating point. He stated he's with the military. He ran across a document a few months ago, partly classified, partly unclassified, of a, quote, a very large object moving through space towards Earth. But the weird thing about it is that it's changing speed, it's changing vectors, every aspect on a daily basis. They can't get a handle on it, unquote. Is Planet X under intelligent control? When the military knows about it, serious researchers know about it. So that for your readers or listeners that haven't heard before, that's a briefing on Major Ed Dames, which ties in with the solar flares, which ties in with the whole topic.
Now, what did he mean by is Planet X under intelligent control? Like, is somebody, driving this thing? Is that what you mean? Or flying this thing? Or what?
It is very bizarre. I don't know what he means by that question. That was the man in the military who was talking to Ed Dames on the YouTube interview, and he said he raised the question himself, not Major Dames, but the military caller said, "Do you think it's under intelligent control?" Ed Dames did not respond to that. I don't know what to respond to that. I don't have a clue. It's just, the whole situation is quite bizarre, but the military knows about it.
Yeah, I wouldn't think that anybody would. Technology couldn't be that good. I don't think where we could control a solar system, but then who knows? Now, do you see Planet X as the biblical fifth seal or sixth seal? I've had people say to me that it was the sixth seal, and it was, they never told us the truth. I don't know. What do you think? Is this, has the church been warned about this?
Right. Well, I spoke with one of the largest Catholic radio channels a couple of months ago, Tradcat Night, and they're familiar with it. And, well, the Vatican, let me talk about the Vatican a little bit. But let me first of all mention the sixth seal. The sixth seal, to sum up, in the sixth seal, the Scripture says there's a great earthquake, the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood. And notice, while the moon is blood red, this effect could be caused by the infrared light of a red dwarf star. But the Vatican is highly into this. It's in a very strange business. It owns a large binocular telescope in Arizona on Mount Graham. Again, why are these people spending billions of dollars? It's a near-infrared telescope. Isn't that strange? The cover story is that they're looking for, quote, extrasolar planets and advanced alien intelligence. The instrument is chilled to minus 351 Fahrenheit to allow it to conduct near-infrared observations, the only way you can see Planet X system. Planet X is, just to rebrief, it's a dwarf star, a binary twin to our sun, and can best be observed in the spectrum. So why, here's the big question, why all of this interest by the Vatican? What are they really interested in? So it was reported some years ago by Father Malachi, who's a Vatican insider, that he knew about an inbound planet which would cause the destruction of millions of people. He said it would look like a red cross in the sky when it appeared. He indicated it would appear between 2015 and 2025. He said the exact date is a secret, hidden in the archives of the Vatican. They have one of the most amazing libraries in the world, other than the one in London. Father Malachi was a professor of paleontology at the Pontifical Biblical Institute, and he has criticized the Vatican for not releasing the full content of what's called the Third Secret of Fatima. The presumption is the Vatican doesn't want Catholics, a billion Catholics, to know the facts about wormwood. which is the Bible term for Planet X or Nibiru. Now, in an interview, I think, with Art Bell on national radio, Father Martin was asked why the Vatican was so deeply involved. He responded, because the mentality amongst those who are at the highest levels of Vatican administration and geopolitics know what's going on in space. They know what's approaching us. And another Vatican insider has stated that the Graham Observatory in Arizona is used to study anomalous celestial bodies approaching the Earth, and he compared it to what the CIA did with one of its secret eyes known as the twin to Hubble. It's called Skyhole 12 or Keyhole 12. And he stated that during an Alaskan radio telescope monitoring of a deep space probe called Silo, a photograph had been taken of a huge planet moving closer inbound to our system. That was way back in the mid-'90s. He was told the information was classified above top secret. He said the probe was created in Area 51 with an EMP motor, and it was put in orbit by a space plane, and its purpose was to approach Nibiru, Planet X, and transmit, information back to the radio telescope. So the bottom line is the Vatican has a secret intelligence agency, the SIV. Stands for Servizio Informazionale del Vaticano, the information service of the Vatican. The fact is the Vatican's telescope and its twin are mounted at the focus points of the LBT's two giant 27.6-foot diameter telescope mirrors. Each instrument is cooled to minus 351 Fahrenheit to observe near infrared. So the question is, what do you think that they are looking for?
Well, exactly. And I got to say, there is so much. People could make good arguments, I guess, on both sides of the aisle. And me, personally, I don't want to argue about it. I just want to learn what I can. And this way, if this does happen, if it does show up in the sky, at least I'll know what the hell I'm seeing, I guess, for a brief second anyways, till it kills me. But so should we be looking for pole shifts? Are we going through something like that? Somebody's told me that the poles are shifting, but I don't know. Is the planet tilting? What's going on?
Right. The magnetic poles have been shifting for years. They're shifting towards Siberia at the rate of 40, 50 miles a year. Now, but when Planet X approaches, you'll have a physical pole shift. I don't know how many degrees it'll be. Some people say it'll be 20 to 30 degrees. I know the fellow codenamed Arizona said he was told by CIA people that the pole shift will take place in 30 minutes. I don't know that. But when that happens, again, you'll have global tsunamis and volcanic activity triggered absolutely everywhere. And, that's what's going to happen. I think you've got to be concerned probably about location to a certain extent. It's safe to be 50 to 100 miles away from all coast. You don't want to be near the the Madrid fault line. You don't want to, of course, be in California. Florida is not a safe location. If you live there, you need to have a bug-out plan at least a week prior. John Moore, the radio show host, whom I think you know and maybe have interviewed a couple times, he's up in the Ozarks, very safe up there. And he's interviewed a number of Navy personnel, and they've all been told there's going to be a rising ocean, live at least 100 miles inland. They were never told why, but this is why. And these are top Navy brass that had continuity of government, classifications that were given this level of debriefing when they left the service. So I would say that, if people ask why is Planet X not yet visible, why has no one ever seen it to this day, well, they have. They have. I've seen it.
And how can people see it now? Is there a program or something that people could use to view?
Well, there is a couple good videos on YouTube, only two that I've really been able to find that are absolutely verifiable. There's also a program, and let me see if I can find a note or two on it.
Yeah, like where people can actually search space, whether it be through Google or something, and actually pinpoint this thing and maybe do their own research on it, each day, seeing how much it's moved and that kind of thing. I think that would be great if we could do that. Now, I know at one point there was a big blackout with Google Sky, and Well, some said it was because they were hiding Planet X. Others say it was just part of the glitch or whatever, but I don't think it's blocked anymore from what I'm being told. So maybe there's a way to look out in space and actually see this thing.
Yeah, the areas of the Dragon anomaly, if you want to call it that, have been covered or patched by Google Sky in the past. One of the ways to actually see what's behind this patched out area is to use Skyview by NASA. Now, Skyview is a virtual observatory on the net, and it generates images of any part of the sky from wavelengths of all regimes from radio to gamma, depending on filters. And when one views the 13 hours, 50 minutes, 44 seconds, and the declination is -8, 13 minutes, 59.7 seconds. So right ascension is the celestial equivalent of longitude, you know, how far east or west. The starting point is, of course, the Royal Greenwich Observatory in London. Greenwich is at 0 degrees. With 24 hours in the full 360 of sky, each hour corresponds to 15 degrees of angular distance. In light degrees, each hour is split into 60 minutes, each minute into 60 seconds. In the sky, latitude is called declination, and by convention, the celestial equator has a declination of 0 degrees. North and south are marked with plus and minus, and they're marked into smaller units called minutes of arc and seconds of arc. So anyway, then on Skyview, just choose the IRIS, IRAS 100 micron telescope setting, and there you are. You've never seen an object quite like this one.
All right, now, and that was 13 hours, 15 minutes, 45 seconds, right? And then it was...
let me repeat. Yeah, I might have said that a little too fast. Close. 13 hours, 50 minutes, 50 minutes.
Okay.
44 seconds. And the second coordinate is -8, 13 minutes, and 59.7 seconds.
Okay. All right. Great. Well, I hope everyone wrote that down. We'll check it out. And, yeah, so how close, and we've got to take a break here in a minute, and then I will get to listener questions, I promise. But how close is it? I mean, whereabouts is it in relation to our outer planets like Jupiter and that kind of thing? I mean, where would it be?
Well, it's closer than Jupiter. It's much closer. I'll give you an example. A fellow named Glenn Vaughn, back in April of 2015, was flying down the Pacific side of Central America, sunset, and Professor Vaughn he produced a 20 megapixel raw file with a Sony digital camera of this image. He sent it in for analysis, and he had a very expensive camera. And using an analysis in Starry Night, the professional version, a field of view analysis was done. Mercury is above or superior conjunction with the sun. The object in the field of view, therefore, is not Mercury. Mercury doesn't have wings, as does this object. Mercury doesn't have the brightness or contrast of the unknown object. And a gamma test on a PATE program was used, and that shows if the object's hot or cold. This was a hot object. And if you reduce the brightness and increase the contrast, the hot objects fade in, proving they're genuine. And then a luminance test was used to determine the intensity of the object, and it was behind the sun, not a reflection. There are wings on the object, which is clearly behind the sun. And this is deeply disturbing. The reason is that gas tails of comets follow solar winds. They're not visible until the comet's orbit is inside of Jupiter, at which point the luminosity of the sun makes the tails of the comet or planet visible. So this object, which is clearly Planet X by deductive logic and process of elimination, was therefore at that point between Mars and Jupiter. It's not in the outer reaches of the solar system. It can clearly be seen from the southern hemisphere. So as of April 2015, it was close enough to the sun that the sun's light reflected in the tail, making it appearing like wings. And that's one. And then Melissa Huffman, this has been seen by over 1 million people on YouTube. It's a real object. She filmed it at Sanibel Causeway. And she pans the sky. Just look up Melissa Huffman, unknown object, on YouTube, or Planet X, if you want to call it that, or Nibiru. Using stellarium and knowing the known moon phases, you can go to the derived date, take away the atmosphere and the ocean. You can determine the relationship of the stars and the horizon. So to determine the date, if you follow the moon on the charts, it's well below the horizon, all dates after September 26. Therefore, I believe the video was taken early in September. Now, September 2015 moon phases give us a comparable to the moon. If you look at the moon phases diagram to the actual picture of the moon, it has to have been photographed, in my opinion, on September 23rd based on the phasing of the moon. Now, on that date, Mercury in stellarium is very dim, somewhat above the horizon, and in a different location than the unknown object. All other planets are below the horizon. The video, therefore, plainly shows an unidentified planet of some magnitude quite clearly. This is a rare photo from this hemisphere of Planet X approaching us. So a couple of those are out there.
All right, David. We're going to take a break here for a moment, so hang on with me, and we'll be a few minutes. All right, so let's see here. Let's get the first question. How sure are you that Planet X is inbound, and have you ever researched Patty Buzard and her insider evidence on Nibiru of what she claims Nibiru is a battle planet and isn't a threat to Earth at all? Do you know anything about that? And I hear... All right, I don't know what's happened there. That's, all right, I guess I'm going to have to get my guest back on here again. Hold on, folks. We've had, I don't know, every now and then we get somebody who calls in, and then when I add them, they screw it all up somehow. I don't know how. Something screws up. I shouldn't say they do. All right, so let's go. And whoever did call in, I heard the show in the background. So you're not following the rules. That tells me you're not listening to the show. All right, so let's go ahead and bring our guest back. That's number one.
Hello?
Hello. We lost you there. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, but I just thought I'd wait for your call back.
Well, I appreciate that. No, we went and I took a call. Somebody was calling in, and I don't know what happened. It messed the phone lines up somehow. But I wanted to give you a question from the chat room. Let's see here. Neo asks, how sure are you that Planet X is inbound, first of all?
100%. Absolutely no doubt.
Okay. 100%. All right, then the next part of his question is, and have you ever researched Patty Buzard and her insider evidence on Nibiru of what she claims Nibiru is a battle planet and isn't an actual threat to Earth? Have you heard about any of that?
No, to be honest, I haven't heard of it.
Okay, so do you think Earth is a battle planet anyways? Or no?
Well, I think we're in an invisible spiritual battle. You've got a kingdom of light and a kingdom of darkness, and I absolutely do believe that. And I believe it's quite obvious that we are also in battle with the internationalist, the globalist, and Trump. Very interesting question, because what's happened with this election is that Trump has challenged them. He's not part of them. And he has defeated them to a measure. But between now and January 20th is a highly dangerous time, because there can be a false flag event, there can be a real event, there can be a martial law declared if one of those occurs. Yeah. So we'll just pray and hope that we make it to January 20th and he's able to assume office, because we're probably in the most dangerous period of America's history right now, I would say.
Well, if something happens where he's unable to take office and the old world order maintains power, well, then I would say people better have a plan in order, because that's enough. All the evidence I would need that something really bad's coming down the pike. Yeah.
Right. I would say your best bet would be out of the United States at that point. Move to Fiji, move to Portugal, get out of the United States.
Yeah, move somewhere that doesn't have oil and a lot of minerals in the ground, and maybe the U.S. will leave you alone.
That's a very good point.
Yeah. So now J.H. asked about Jupiter. I mentioned it earlier. Some are saying now, she says, that Planet X is Jupiter. Wrong, obviously.
Well, right. Well, Jupiter's a gas giant. It's very similar to our sun. It's more of a star than it is a planet. Now, the Planet X system is a red or brown dwarf star, and
no, not working. Trying to take a call, folks, and it's just not working. I don't know what's going on with this guy's. Let me remove that. You still with us, David? Oh, darn. Yeah, all right. So that's not going to happen. It's no. Just got knocked off again. Here, let's try this again. Yeah, that's caller. I think that's on you. I don't think that you could be added to group calls or what have you. So I'm not going to try to take your call again because it's messing us up. Here, let's see. Yeah, that's the right one. No. Oh boy. All right. Well, let's do it another way. Let's see. Maybe that's the intention.
good evening.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'm gonna not try to take any more calls because it's just not working out well. But go ahead. I do apologize for that. It won't happen again.
Oh, sure. Basically, I was just saying that the system consists of a dark star, smaller than our sun, 7 orbiting bodies, some smaller than our moon, a couple of them larger than our Earth. The dark star is called Nemesis, our planet X. The blue planet is called the blue Kachina in history, and the planet that's larger than the Earth that's orbiting the dark star is called Nibiru. It's also known as the planet of the crossing or the destroyer. There's another object, a gas giant. Some refer to it as Helion. And the Bible refers to the system as wormwood and also as the red dragon. And the former term is from the 6th seal section of Revelation, and the latter is from Revelation chapter 12. So that's it. It's been discovered, tracked, and probed by scientists for the government. And those scientists who got too close to the truth, such as Harrington, were eliminated. And there are paid disinformants and trolls who try their best to debunk the topic on the Internet. And on the other hand, you have those making wild claims, such as about the system actually having inhabitants. This is all designed to keep the public confused.
Okay. All right. And well, yeah, and they do a good job of that. Now, speaking of Jupiter, with all its moons, some say that, it could have been its own sun if it had ignited. All Planet X aside, do you think Jupiter was just that? I mean, you think it was supposed to be a sun and have it's like its own little solar system, though, isn't it?
Right. It has, I believe, over 60 moons. And the dangerous thing about Jupiter, the area between Jupiter and Mars, is you have the asteroid belt. And as Planet X has passed through there, it's going to pick up even more debris in its debris field. And if it passes within 20, 25 million miles of the Earth at its perihelion with our sun, you'll have anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks of major impact damage, and the traditional sources of funding, just have developed absolutely zero space defenses. So you'll have ground shock. You'll have a global catastrophe. The infrastructure will take a big hit from large impact, and the impact tsunami could produce a mile-high wave front that could travel up to 100 miles or more inland. And if you compare it to smaller instances, you have back in 1908 a huge explosion occurred above Tunguska, Siberia. And the cause was not a malfunctioning alien star cruiser, but it was a small asteroid or comet. And the blast had hundreds of times the forces of the Hiroshima bomb. It devastated an area of several hundred square miles. If the explosion had occurred above London or Paris, the city would no longer exist. And they have determined, a researcher at the Sandia National Laboratory in New Mexico recently concluded the Tunguska object was only 30 meters across.
Wow. Wow. All right. Well, we've got another question here. We've actually got several of them. This one is from Mike, and he asks if you are familiar with bases within the mountains of western North Carolina.
No, to be honest, I have not heard of that. It's possible. I don't have any doubt they're in almost every state. I believe there's over 130 of them in the United States. There's more than 1,400 deep underground military bases in the world. Norway has a huge one. Russia, Moscow, has major ones built into the side of mountains. China has ones capable of storing entire nuclear submarines and aircraft. So they're throughout the world.
Okay, and Garrett has a question. He says, hello, first of all, David. And he asks, in your opinion, does the coming of Planet X in the near future mean a forced disclosure by Putin or Trump soon?
Well, that's a very good question. I believe you've got two relatively honest people there. Surprisingly, Russia is much more open about this subject than the United States. Again, it's not part of this New World Order complex.
You know why? Because their citizens don't have guns.
Well, that's another reason. Yeah, and they can protect their citizens. They can protect 50% of their population. You've got 0% of the population. All you've got in the United States protected is the elite, the Congress. That's it.
Yeah, that is it. And, I don't know if they think that getting under the ground, I mean, really, how do you plan for something like this? So you do your best research if you're the government. You build these facilities under the ground, and I guess they think that they're going to survive. But, I don't know, something like this, it tells me that this earth could be twisted and squished and pulled. And I don't know as though your chances are very good being within the earth either. I think
I think tectonic plates will shift. I think 90% of these dumbs will prove faulty. Will prove death traps.
Yeah, I would take my chances above ground. I think first, even with the radiation, the meteor rocks, and all the other good stuff that would come, it'd be better than being buried alive. I think.
Right, and when a coronal mass ejection hits, the temperature will go to 130, 140 degrees. That's survivable. Yeah, I agree with you.
All right. Next question here. Will the Anunnaki be on Planet X? So will there be this ET race coming with this system?
Well, no, that's a myth, in my opinion. I mean, other people may believe it, and I respect their opinions, but I believe that's part of a ancient Sumerian myth. I don't believe there's actually any, it's not habitable.
Okay, and then there's a follow-up with that. It says, now, he does not know about Nibiru and the Anunnaki, right? Well, you did mention Nibiru, but you said the Anunnaki, no. He says, going to destroy the Bible view if he does. So this is from a member in one of the other rooms, and so he's kind of challenging you on the whole Bible part of it. So in the Bible, does it talk about these Anunnaki coming with wormwood or what have you?
No, not in the Judeo-Christian Bible. I hear there are other versions that are not the Bible per se, and maybe they talk about it. I don't know. But what I consider to be the real and valid Bible of the last 6,000 years, they don't. It isn't covered. Intelligent life on other planets is not mentioned.
Okay. Another question here. Mentioning the up and down speed of the observed planet, does that suggest it to be an artificial planet created by ETs, or possible, again, the battle planets come up? So could there be, I guess in this system, could what's called Planet X or Nibiru, could it be kind of like like the Death Star from Star Wars or something, and they're traveling?
Well, that's a mystery inside an enigma within a riddle. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know why the vectors are changing. That is so strange. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, how could anyone know? I mean, unless they're getting direct radio signals from them. I mean, but and something tells me they're not using radios. All right, another question here. Do you believe the government is, well, there was until somebody, okay, we got questions coming in like crazy here. All right, so do you believe the government is hiding it from us? Do you think a Fresnel lens could be used for it? Well, yes, the government's definitely hiding it. But do you think there's a lens, special lens that could be used to see it in real time?
Well, you'd need to buy probably a $36,000 Meade 20-inch telescope to even have a chance of seeing it. It's unreachable for the average person. it's just not really feasible, particularly from this hemisphere. You'd have to have a good point of view from South America, from Chile, probably to have a chance to see it.
All right. Let's see here. We've got another question. I was raised by a woman with Hopi heritage and grew up learning the story of the blue and red Kachina. It has nothing to do with Nibiru. Where did he get this idea?
Well, near Arabi, Arizona, there's a petroglyph known as the Prophecy Rock, and it symbolizes many Hopi prophecies. And there is an ancient Hopi Indian prophecy that states when the blue star Kachina makes its appearance in the heavens, the fifth world will emerge. I don't know what that means, but I believe it's not far off. And but Nibiru will cause a major pole shift. It's underway. Tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and earthquakes all herald its approach. It fulfills most of the tragedies of the Book of Revelation, all the trumpet judgments, most of the bowl judgments. And right now, insiders can see the incoming system with their telescopes. It really cannot be hidden, any longer.
All right. And, well, folks want to know what they can expect from it. Like when this finally happens, and there's no denying, there it is, things will probably happen fast. Now, you're talking about some of the signs we're seeing now, and, of course, folks are asking, so before we get into what will happen exactly or what we think will happen, is there technology on this earth right now? And some say there is. They're telling me that now, that, the earthquake technology, things that could cause these earthquakes, because I guess basically everybody's looking for another explanation for what's going on. And so is there one?
Not that I know of. I mean, there is HARP, which could possibly modify the paths of hurricanes, but other than that, in order to trigger Yellowstone, in order to trigger the Long Valley caldera in California, very dangerous, you're going to need something like Planet X to approach to cause these to erupt.
Yeah, okay. And so what can we expect? I mean, here's the thing. I want to say this. When I first started this show over 9 years ago, one of the first guests I had on was John Moore. I had John Moore on. I talked to another guy, Jason Rand, about Planet X. And John Moore, he really got into some detail. One of the things that these guys were telling me is we were going to see a pickup in the earthquakes. We were going to see a pickup in the crazy weather, stuff that's just off the charts and that we've not seen before. That we were going to see volcanic activity. We were going to see an increase in fireballs in the sky. And I cannot deny, unless I sit here and lie, I cannot deny that I have seen those things. Now, there are those who will say, well, if we had the internet 30, 40, 50 years ago, and the equipment we have now, we would have been able to register more earthquakes. So they kind of blow it off as, well, nowadays we've got the technology. That's why we're seeing the uptick and all this stuff, because we can. I don't believe that.
No, that's what I would call psychological denial. That particular type of person just doesn't want to. It's willful ignorance, I'm afraid. I mean, it might be a very intelligent person, but it's in that particular instance, they've got some subconscious fear of this object, and they're just doing anything they can to convince their own subconscious mind, of that.
Yeah. All right. And another question here from one of our listeners: does it have anything to do with the rings or rainbows around the sun that's been in the skies?
That's one area I have not investigated, studied, or researched.
I would guess if we're seeing rainbows around the sun or the moon from Earth, I think you could probably tote that off as atmosphere causing that, right? I would think, because of the water in the atmosphere.
That's something in the upper atmosphere. It's not. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I would think. Okay. Well, listen, what I'd like to do, I know we've only got you till 11, so what I would like to do is give you the floor to get out anything else that you'd like. And I thank you for joining me here, and I hope we could do this again soon. I mean, there's just so much more that needs to be talked about this?
Right. I guess I could to recap a few different things. Let's see. So my book, Planet X 2017 Arrival, just to summarize or synopsize, it's about the preeminent events of this century. And the amazing thing about this is that in the book, I find that the book of Revelation provides a very precise astronomical time marker to this event, the appearance of Planet X. And this appearance precedes the biblical sixth seal by just a matter of weeks. The book, chapter by chapter, goes into the scientific basis for the event, its precise timing. It explains what will happen afterwards, and it explains how the object some call Nibiru, some call Planet X, will create the very environment from which events of biblical magnitude transpire. What's unique about it is it combines all forms of intelligence. Planet X is a cryptogram. This book contains the keys necessary to decode it, and when it's all considered together, it fits together like a watch. I would say that could it be that government insiders from NASA, DOD, and the CIA know that 2/3 or half of the population of the planet could perish during the coming pole shift by the passage of Planet X? Is it possible every secretive government agency in the USA is fully aware of what is expected? Well, the Vatican is fully abreast of what's happening, but the public is not being warned and has had very little chance to prepare. So,
is the pole shift partly responsible for the earthquakes? Another listener has asked that question. You mentioned pole shift, and I thought it'd be a great time to throw it in there.
Oh, absolutely. That the pole shift will create major earthquake and volcanic activity. The Hawaiian Shelf, that will probably create a 600-foot tsunami heading towards California, Oregon, and Washington. You'll have that's when the shit will hit the fan, as they say. So, at that point, you'll have the worst effects of the entire scenario.
All right, and people could get the book at your website, and where else?
Well, at my website, writerswebservices.com. Just enter maybe on Google Planet X, the 2017 Arrival by David Mead. And also on Amazon.com. Look under Kindle eBooks. It's available in print, audio, ebook format. It's available on Kobo in Canada and UK. It's available in Australia. It's available in about 10 countries on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other platforms. It's available in iTunes. And so it's available on many platforms in at least a dozen countries, from print to ebook and audio.
All right. Well, listen, David, I thank you so much for being here tonight, and I look forward to talking to you again in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
All right.